Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi launches a nationwide outreach and awareness campaign on the occasion of National Tribal Pride Day. The first semi-final of the Cricket World Cup between India and New Zealand kicks off at Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. Israel raids Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza in self-defense, targets a specified area of the hospital, asks the Hamas to surrender. And the presidents of the US and China to hold talks on the margins of the APEC summit in San Francisco. As India remembers the tribal freedom fighter Bersa Munda on his birth anniversary today, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid tributes to his legacy in Jharkhand. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister also inaugurated and dedicated various projects worth billions of dollars to the nation on the occasion. More in the next report.
India celebrates National Tribal Pride Day, dedicated to honor the legacy of revered tribal freedom fighter Bersa Munda, whose indomitable spirit and relentless struggle against colonial rule continue to inspire generations. To pay his tributes, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Bhagwan Bersa Munda Memorial Park and Freedom Fighter Museum in the Indian city of Ranchi and paid him floral tributes.
झारखंड आना मुझे पुरानी स्मृतियों को ताजा करने का अवसर भी देता है। गरीबों की सबसे बड़ी ताकत आयुष्मान भारत योजना की शुरुआत झारखंड से ही हुई थी। कुछ ही साल पहले खूंटी में मैंने सोलर पावर से चलने वाले जिला न्यायालय का उद्घाटन किया था। अब आज झारखंड की इस पावन भूमि से एक नहीं बल्कि दो ऐतिहासिक अभियानों की शुरुआत होने जा रही है। विकसित भारत संकल्प यात्रा सैचुरेशन के सरकार के लक्ष्यों को प्राप्त करने का सशक्त माध्यम बनेगी। पीएम जनजाति आदिवासी न्याय महाअभियान विलुप्त होने की कगार पर खड़ी जनजातियां, जिसे हम अब तक प्रिमिटिव ट्राइब के रूप में जानते हैं, उनकी रक्षा करेगा, उन्हें सशक्त करेगा। ये दोनों ही अभियान अमृत काल में भारत की विकास यात्रा को नई ऊर्जा देंगे।
Prime Minister Modi, who is on a two-day visit to the Indian state of Jharkhand, also visited Olihatu village, the birthplace of Bhagwan Bersa Munda. PM participated in a program marking the celebrations of 3rd Tribal Pride Day, where he flagged off Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra, that is to begin with tribal-dominated districts and will cover the entire country by January 2024.
अभी 50,000 करोड़ रुपए की अलग-अलग योजनाओं का उपहार मिला है। आज झारखंड में रेलवे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और कनेक्टिविटी के विस्तार के तहत कई रेल परियोजनाओं को शुरू किया गया है। आपको ये जानकर खुशी होगी कि झारखंड भी देश के 100% इलेक्ट्रिफाइड रेल रूट वाला राज्य बन गया है।
PM Modi further praised Jharkhand for becoming a state with 100% electrified railway routes in the country. Prime Minister also launched Pradhan Mantri Particularly Vulnerable Tribal Groups Development Mission with a budget of around 24,000 crore rupees as well as 15th installment amount of about 18,000 crore rupees under PM Kisan. During the event, PM Modi laid the foundation stone of various projects worth rupees 7,200 crore rupees in Jharkhand.
And joining me is my colleague Debyendu Mondal. Debyendu, what more can you tell us about the Indian Prime Minister kicking off a nationwide outreach and awareness campaign on the occasion of the National Tribal Pride Day?
Well, from here at Khunti, where we are standing, Prime Minister recently just finished his speech a couple of minutes back. He's on his way back to the airport. But before leaving the rally ground, he has made some huge announcements that will benefit thousands of tribal people living across the country. He has spoken about giving 24,000 crore rupees of schemes that will benefit the vulnerable tribal groups living in the far-flung areas of the country. Not just this, the Prime Minister also announced the Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra scheme, which means that several of the central government-sponsored welfare schemes will now reach to the doorstep of the people across the country. There will be government officers that will take these schemes to the people who have been left out from the mainstream and bring them into the mainstream and register them. They will not need to do any paperwork anymore, not stand in queues, but the government will reach the doorstep of the people to help them enroll into the several government schemes. Again, not just this, there was another scheme that was launched by the Prime Minister for the development of the state, which includes several thousands of crores of infrastructure development, including rail and roadways network that will connect different parts of the state of Jharkhand along with other neighboring states, so that development as well as movement of goods and people can take place easily from the state to the neighboring states. And there were other important schemes and announcements also made by the Prime Minister from here at Khunti in Jharkhand.
Debyendu, thank you. Appreciate it. Moving on, India and the US signed a memorandum of understanding on enhancing innovation ecosystems as India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal and US Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo met on the sidelines of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework ministerial meeting in the US city of San Francisco. The MOU signals a joint commitment to strengthen the startup ecosystem in deep tech sectors and promote cooperation in critical and emerging technologies. The MOU was signed at a roundtable conference co-chaired by Goyal and Raimondo. Titled Decoding Innovation Handshake, the roundtable was attended by investors and startup CEOs. India joined the US and 12 other Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity partners to ink the IPEF Supply Chain Resilience Agreement. The deal will strengthen global supply chains and foster adaptability, stability and sustainability. On the occasion, Indian Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal thanked the US Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo for her leadership and personal commitment to ensuring that this truly historic moment towards a more resilient future. And on the sidelines of the IPEF meeting, Piyush Goyal met his counterparts from Malaysia and Indonesia. He urged Malaysia, which is the ASEAN coordinator for India, for an early conclusion of review of the ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement. The Indian minister then held a discussion on deepening bilateral trade and investment ties with Indonesia's coordinating minister for the economic affairs. The Indian minister also met President and CEO of Lam Research, Tim Archer. The US firm provides services to the semiconductor industry. The duo discussed innovation-led future and investment opportunities in India's semiconductor and deep tech space that's ably supported by a robust talent pool. And Minister Goyal also addressed entrepreneurs from the Indian diaspora. He highlighted the role of digitization in India's growth.
Today, all our programs are developed on the back of huge amount of engagement with technology, getting to the root cause of every problem, resolve that problem using the latest in terms of digital software, digital ideas. And I'm happy to report to you that just as we had discussed last year when I was here, sometime in September, we have continued to do well in the Indian economy. We continue to grow at about 7%.
U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping are both in San Francisco, where they will hold talks on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. It's Xi's first trip to the U.S. since 2017, and it will be the two leaders' first in-person one-on-one talks since November 2022. The presidents of the world's strongest economies are meeting for the second time in person since Biden took office in January 2021. The meeting's agenda is to resume normal communications between the two countries, including military-to-military contacts.
To get back on a normal course of corresponding, being able to pick up the phone and talk to one another if there's a crisis, being able to make sure our military still have contact with one another. As I told you, we're not trying to decouple from China, but what we're trying to do is change the relationship for the better.
Patrick Falk joins us from Singapore. Patrick, there's a lot of ground for the two leaders to cover. Can you give us a sense of what's at stake here?
Yeah, certainly a lot of ground for both leaders to cover. The meeting, which is taking place in a vast and remote estate miles outside of San Francisco, as a matter of fact, chosen for its serenity and security, is really the culmination of months of negotiations between Chinese and American officials. We really didn't have any guarantee that any face-to-face would be taking place right up until the final weeks before the APEC summit. And the hope really is that the world's two biggest powers will get ties on a better footing. President Biden, as you mentioned just a moment ago, has made it a key priority to restart military-to-military communications to reduce the risk of conflict between the two countries. Another key priority is he's expected to urge President Xi to use China's influence over Iran to stop it from taking any actions that might escalate the conflicts in the Middle East. President Biden arguably comes into these discussions on a stronger footing, given the strength of the American economic recovery. It really has been unexpected, and it's been one of the strongest recoveries among the world's richest nations. By contrast, President Xi Jinping is facing a sputtering Chinese economy that's really failed to pick up off the back of China's harsh COVID restrictions and since opening up. Now, President Xi, for his part, is expected to reassert China's red lines, Taiwan in particular, but both sides really have set low expectations. So vast are the differences between the two sides. There is a concern that despite the fact that ties have been thawing since the start of this year, it is still very fragile indeed. And so really what's at stake here is trying to inject some momentum into the stabilization of ties between the US and China more than anything else.
Patrick, as we saw in those visuals there, President Xi has already arrived in San Francisco. How's his visit being covered in China?
Yeah, it's really interesting to take a look at this. You know, both sides, and China included, has really talked about the high level of anticipation. As you mentioned ago, this is President Xi's first visit to America since 2017. The Global Times also talked about the warm welcome that President Xi had coming to America. It showed images and talked about people beaming with enthusiasm for the Chinese president. There was no mention, of course, of any of the protests and demonstrations, protesters against the CCP and the Chinese president. There is an expectation that there will be a large crowd gathering outside the APEC summit itself. There have also been pockets of demonstrations with people you know, against the treatment of Uyghurs in Xinjiang province, people protesting against issues related to Tibet and Hong Kong and Taiwan. And this is unfamiliar territory, you might argue, for President Xi, who's really become accustomed to very choreographed visits to other countries. But most importantly, Chinese media has portrayed President Biden and President Xi as holding the keys to the global economic recovery. And that, once again, really highlights what is the key priority for China, which is to do something here that will help its economy pick up.
Patrick, thank you for now. Appreciate it. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Israel raids the Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza in self-defense. And the European Union reaches a deal on new rules to cut methane emissions in the energy sector.
Turning crisis into opportunity. Transforming ideas into action. Stories of real change. Tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such change makers. Watch Change Makers on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Updates now from the Israel-Hamas conflict. The Israeli military has carried out an operation against the Hamas in Gaza's Al-Shifa Hospital on Wednesday and urged all members of the terrorist group in the hospital to surrender.
The Israeli military conducted raids in self-defense against Hamas at Gaza's Al-Shifa Hospital on Wednesday. Israel believes that Hamas has a command center underneath Al-Shifa Hospital, the biggest in Gaza, and uses the hospital and tunnels underneath to conceal military operations and to hold hostages. IDF stated that Hamas uses hospitals for terrorism instead of treating the ill, and this sick exploitation of the Gazan people must be stopped.
Hamas sees ill Gazans as an opportunity to put the most vulnerable in the line of fire. Just last week, in the Rantisi hospital, Ahmed Siam, a company commander in the Hamas, was conducting terrorism from within the hospital while holding 1,000 patients, medical staff, and innocent people as hostages. Ahmed Siam knew by preventing their evacuation, they were shielding him. We know that Hamas has done this for years.
IDF forces included medical teams and Arabic speakers who have undergone specified training to prepare for the hospital raid with the intent that no harm is caused to the civilians being used by Hamas as human shields. United States supported the safe evacuation of patients at Gaza hospitals, asserting that Hamas should stop using hospitals as a command post.
We don't want to see any civilians, and certainly not babies in incubators or other vulnerable populations caught in a crossfire. We want Hamas to stop using hospitals as a command post. That would be the easiest way to solve this problem, if they would stop using the civilians that are in hospitals as humanitarian shields.
The World Health Organization has acknowledged the challenges faced by Al-Shifa hospital staff in caring for patients amid turbulent times.
everyone in that hospital is in a really, really dire situation. All their lives are so threatened. So we as the world have to find a way to help them. The best way would be to stop the hostilities right now, focus on saving lives, not taking lives.
Meanwhile, on Tuesday, Israeli army released footage of what it said were its soldiers carrying out military operations and dismantling Hamas centers and capabilities it has built over the years in Gaza's Al-Shati.
And Sarah Coates now joins us from Tel Aviv. Sarah, what more do we know about the situation at the Al-Shifa hospital?
Hello there, Ramesh. Well, look, Israel's calling this a precise and targeted operation. We do know ahead of the IDF going into Al-Shifa's hospital, it released a statement saying that it was looking for ways to defeat Hamas and also release these hostages, 240 people who are being held in the Gaza Strip. But look, it has just come out a few hours after going into that hospital to say that it hasn't found any hostages, any evidence of the hostages. But what it has found are weapons. This is after a search of the basement of Al-Shifa hospital. And look, what we do understand now, according to Palestinian media, is that these IDF troops, they are conducting raids through parts like the emergency department. They are apparently interrogating or speaking to doctors. And there has been a call put out. This is reportedly has not been confirmed for these patients. There are around 600 of them and around 250 or so estimated health workers for them to gather in the courtyard of Al-Shifa hospital before potentially being evacuated. Now, look, it remains unclear as to exactly what stage Israel is of this operation, given that there's real troubles with communications on the ground right now in the Palestinian enclave, and also just given the size of Al-Shifa. It is one of the biggest sort of areas inside the northern Gaza Strip. It's 22 acres and is the biggest hospital inside Gaza. So, look, we do understand that tanks have surrounded it. They are in parts of the grounds, while soldiers are certainly inside. That's according to the IDF.
Also, Sarah, what can you tell us about the aid situation inside Gaza?
Well, look, the IDF just tweeted a little while ago with reference to these premature babies that we've heard so much about inside Al-Shifa hospital. It has now delivered what it says as milk, other critical supplies to that hospital, and also these facilities that these babies need to go inside, these respirators and also these incubators. So, look, also at the same time, Israel has announced it is allowing fuel into the Gaza Strip for the very first time since October 7. This is reportedly 24,000 litres of petrol. It will enter through the Rafah crossing, although aid groups say this is simply not enough. We need to remember that this is the first lot of fuel that will be going into the Strip for a very, very long time, more than a month now. And aid groups say that they need to replenish these reservoirs to actually be able to get these hospitals up and running again. Right now, more than half of the hospitals in the Gaza Strip have stopped working. And the situation down in the south, where Israel is telling these people to go, remains dire. That evacuation corridor is open once again right now for people to move from the north to the south. But these people down in the south, they barely have any shelter. It's cramped conditions. And aid organisations say that diseases are now rapidly spreading. And also yesterday, just quickly, Ramesh, we had the biggest storm so far of this season come through. And it caused a lot of chaos here in Tel Aviv, not far from the Gaza Strip. So one can only imagine the situation that these people down in the south are currently facing.
All right, we'll leave it at that, Sarah. Thank you. That was Sarah Coates reporting from Tel Aviv. Moving on, in Washington, D.C., tens of thousands of people rallied on Tuesday for a march for Israel to show support in its conflict with the Hamas. Downtown streets were closed for security reasons as a large number of people adorned with Israeli and U.S. flags gathered to express their solidarity with Israel.
We felt with everything going on with Israel and Hamas, we felt that it was really critically important for us to be here and to stand with our values and to make known that we are here to support Israel and the Israeli people during this time.
We all felt the need to show solidarity with Israel and its citizens in this hour of great stress and challenge.
Recognition of what was the immediate catalyst for the event. On the other hand, obviously, there's a sense of encouragement and inspiration of seeing many Jews of different ilks coming together unified.
Take a look at some more stories making news around the world. Japan's military is conducting exercises as helicopters flew over uninhabited island in Okinawa in a simulated attack on invading forces. The island nation is preparing its air, sea and land forces for a potential conflict in East Asia. The European Union reached a deal on a law to place methane emissions limits on Europe's oil and gas imports from the year 2030. The law requires importers of crude oil, gas and coal into Europe to prove those fuels meet a methane intensity limit. It also obliges oil and gas producers in Europe to find and fix leaks of the potent greenhouse gas in their operations. The import rules are likely to hit major gas suppliers, which include the United States, Algeria and Russia. Taiwan's two main opposition parties agreed to make a decision on a joint presidential ticket for January's elections based on opinion polls. Vice President Lai Ching-te, the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's presidential candidate, has almost consistently led opinion polls, leaving candidates of the main opposition to battle it out for the second place. And K-pop superstars 17 performed and spoke at the UNESCO Youth Forum. The group performed their latest hits in the Paris headquarters of the body. After their performance, they spoke on the importance of education and solidarity to guarantee a brighter future for the young people. And still to come on DD India News Hour. A regional meeting of the defense ministers from the Association of Southeast Asian Nations kicks off in Jakarta. And an escape tunnel is being prepared to rescue 40 Indian workers trapped underground.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such change makers. Watch Change Makers on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi launches a nationwide outreach and awareness campaign on the occasion of National Tribal Pride Day. The presidents of the US and China to hold talks on the margins of the APEC summit in San Francisco. And the first semi-final of the Cricket World Cup between India and New Zealand kicks off at Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. All right, let's now get you the latest on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that Russia has suffered heavy losses in Avdiivka city. He said that the setbacks will affect Moscow's plans in the broader conflict. The statement came at Zelensky's chief of staff for the first time acknowledged that Ukraine's forces have established a foothold in southern Kherson, potentially opening a new line of attack towards Crimea. Meanwhile, Russia has said that it repelled Ukrainian attacks near Bakhmut.
Russia is already losing soldiers and equipments under Avdiivka faster and on a large scale than, for example, under Bakhmut. The more Russian forces are destroyed near Avdiivka, the worse the overall situation will be for the enemy for the course of the war.
And shifting focus to the Indo-Pacific now, North Korea has successfully conducted static tests of new type high-thrust solid-fuel engines for the intermediate-range ballistic missiles, ensuring the development of the new type intermediate-range ballistic missiles system. The tests were conducted on the 11th and 14th of November. They are crucial for enhancing the military's strategic offensive capabilities. Pyongyang announced a Russian delegation visiting the country, while North Korea and Russia have denied any arms deals, despite pledging closer military cooperation at their September summit. A Russian delegation led by Natural Resources Minister Alexander Kozlov is visiting North Korea as the country tested a ballistic missile. The Russian minister said that Moscow wants to further cooperation with Pyongyang based on the agreements between Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un when they met in Russia earlier this year. Kozlov reached Pyongyang as U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said that the UN command, which enforces the Korean War armistice, is concerned that China and Russia are helping North Korea expand its military capabilities. The European Union will miss target to deliver 1 million rounds of ammunition to Ukraine by March because of production difficulties. The EU also plans for a joint rapid response force by the year 2025. Take a look at Alex Cadier's report from Brussels.
The EU's ambition to deliver 1 million rounds of ammunition was one of the bloc's flagship plans in its support of Ukraine. It was meant to happen in 3 phases. The first would see member states dig into their stocks and deliver what they could spare to Ukraine's armed forces. The second would see them strike deals with weapons makers. And the third would boost funding to encourage them to ramp up ammunition production. EU countries were able to deliver 300,000 rounds of ammunition from their own stocks. But those last 2 phases have proved trickier than expected. The EU's weapons manufacturers have been reluctant to divert existing orders to focus on Ukraine. At a meeting of the EU's defence ministers, Germany's Boris Pistorius said the target will be missed. Even as the European Union's top diplomat says, there's still hope.
Maybe we will not have 1 million by March, but it will depend on how quickly the orders comes to the industry and how quickly the industry reacts. So both things could be true at the same time. The capacity of the industry and the deliveries to the industry and from the industry to us and from us to the Ukraine.
Also on the agenda for the EU's defence chiefs was a new proposal for a joint EU rapid response force. The new force will consist of at least 5,000 troops from across the Union, deployable on short notice to international crises around the world. Ministers expect it to be up and running by 2025. A sign that the EU and its defence ministers are racing to adapt to a rapidly evolving world. Alex Cadier in Brussels reporting for DD India.
A regional meeting of defence ministers from the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, kicked off in Jakarta today. The ongoing conflict in Myanmar and the Israel-Hamas war took centre stage in the discussions. In his opening address, Indonesia's Defence Minister Prabowo Subianto urged ASEAN members to find a durable solution to the crisis in Myanmar. Prabowo and his Malaysian counterpart, Haji Muhammad bin Haji Hassan, also called for a ceasefire in Gaza. Kenya hosts talks to create a binding agreement to tackle global plastic pollution. Stakeholders want oil-producing nations to be heavily involved. The deadline for the treaty is March 2024, with slow progress raising concerns. DD India's Isabel Nakiria reports from Kampala.
It will be the first legally binding treaty to reduce plastic pollution, which environment campaigners warn could double in the next 20 years. Last year, more than 170 countries agreed to have a UN treaty to combat plastic pollution. Leaders of the global plastic industry are advocating for greater recycling to solve the plastic waste crisis, while environment groups are calling this position destructive from the real solutions to produce less plastic. Less than 10% of plastic waste is recycled, and millions of tons of plastic products are tossed each year or improperly burned. Some plastic industry manufacturers say the document should take into consideration developing countries that benefit from plastic. Less developed countries may find the transition harder, worried the pact may affect their economies still earning from production of plastic. There is concern that time is running out to reach a real deal with the deadline set for March 2024. But with 400 million tons of plastic waste produced each year, global leaders are concerned that progress to come up with a treaty is slow. The meeting ends on Sunday, and delegates hope to make considerable headway by then. Isabel Nakiria in Kampala, reporting for DD India.
Climate activist Greta Thunberg faces a London court over public order offence after an environmental protest in the city. Thunberg was charged following a demonstration at an oil and gas conference. Known for her global climate activism, Thunberg could be fined up to £2,500 if found guilty. This incident follows previous arrests and removals from protests in Sweden, Norway and Germany. Iceland's Civil Protection and Emergency Management Department reported almost 800,000 residents of Grindavik were allowed to return to their homes after being evacuated on the 11th of November. The town was fully evacuated after seismic activity and underground lava flows intensified on the Reykjanes Peninsula near the capital, Reykjavik. The agency said that an eruption could not be ruled out because of the gas's presence. The Sri Lankan Supreme Court has ruled that former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and his brother, ex-Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, were among the several government officials who were responsible for the country's worst economic crisis in decades. The court delivered its verdict on a petition filed against 13 former officials by a rights group, but the court did not order any punishment. Sri Lanka's economy collapsed in 2019, leading to unprecedented rise in inflation and shortage of essential goods, including medicines. India proudly unveiled its cutting-edge HAL twin-engine deck-based fighter at the Dubai Air Show, a key addition to the Indian Navy's arsenal. The twin engines enable shorter takeoffs from Indian Navy carriers. India's participation reflects its dedication to excellence and innovation in aviation, showcased biennially at the Dubai Air Show.
We are showcasing a lot of DRDO products in the Dubai Air Show 2002-03, and twin-engine deck-based fighter TEDBF is one of the leading technologies which we are showcasing in Dubai Air Show. This is an aircraft which is having the capability of stow bar. This is a carrier-borne aircraft. Stow bar means short takeoff but arrested recovery. This aircraft is capable to land within a short span of 90 meters and take off within a short span of 200 meters. This aircraft, we have got various features for the stowage on the aircraft carrier, that is folded wing. So wings can be folded in this aircraft. This has got a very good payload capacity, that is 7.5 tons. This is having twin engine, and it has got a lot of new avionics, advanced sensors fused into the aircraft to suffice it for the requirement of the modern warfare scenario. This aircraft is one of the challenging aircraft now, which will be replacing MiG-29K for the Indian Navy.
The 42nd India International Trade Fair is underway in India's capital, New Delhi. The Indian Railways has set up a pavilion to showcase its strengths. R.N. Sunkar, Managing Director, National High Speed Rail Corporation Limited, spoke to DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh on fast pace of development by the railways and the progress on the bullet train project.
In last 10 years, if you see the progress of our infrastructure works we have been doing, the multi-tracking works, then expansion of our network, railway electrification, amazing progress has been achieved. Earlier we have been doing almost maybe 2,000 kilometers per annum we have been adding. This year we have added 5,000 kilometers, and in current financial year also, so far 2,000 kilometers have already been commissioned, and we are going to maybe cross this figure of 5,000 kilometers. It should end up somewhere at 5,500 kilometers. Electrification, we are aiming to complete 100% electrification by March 2024. Bullet train is our project is progressing so well. In fact, we are getting all sort of assistance from Japanese government. Our team is really motivated. Our Honorable MR, Minister Railways, he is keeping close eye, and he himself is monitoring the project so closely. And Honorable Minister basically mission project for us, and this the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister. So we have to meet the target given by him, and so far progress made it quite satisfactory.
In the northern Indian state of Uttarakhand, rescue operation is underway after an under-construction tunnel collapsed, trapping at least 40 workers. An escape tunnel is being prepared through the debris, and a second drilling machine is being brought to the site from New Delhi. 2 teams of the National Disaster Response Force are also present on the ground. And now take a look at some other stories making news in India. A tragic bus accident in Jammu and Kashmir's Assar region claimed the lives of at least 36 people and injured 19 others. A rescue operation was immediately launched, and some bodies have since been recovered. All the injured are being shifted to the Government Medical College in the Doda region. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar, along with Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla, joined the group performing tribal dance at the Parliament House complex in New Delhi. The performance commemorates the birth anniversary of freedom fighter Bersa Munda, who sacrificed his life at the age of 24. The Anjali International Children and Youth Festival for the Differently Abled Children is being organized in eastern Indian state of Odisha. The 3-day-long festival aims to bridge gaps for making the society more inclusive and restore fun-filled childhood by showcasing the potential of children with disabilities to the mainstream of society. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India and New Zealand clash in the Cricket World Cup semi-final at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. And the Royal Botanical Gardens in the UK begins year-end festivities with a Christmas lights show.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Always welcoming. The vibe of Punjab is larger than life. Warm up to grandeur that's beyond compare. And history that's dotted with tales of bravery. Smiling soul of India, where music, art, cuisine and culture comes together to create an unforgettable impression. Punjab is all set to win your hearts with its unique and colorful extravaganza. Always welcoming. The vibe of Punjab is larger than life. Warm up to grandeur that's beyond compare. And history that's dotted with tales of bravery. Smiling soul of India, where music, art, cuisine and culture comes together.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Let me now bring you up to speed with business news. Asian stocks witnessed a 2-month high surge on Wednesday in anticipation of stimulus in China and an end to rate hikes in the United States. While the dollar nursed steep losses, the Hang Seng rose nearly 3%, breaking above its 50-day moving average, with Japan's Nikkei up at 2.3%. Data showed on Tuesday that U.S. headline consumer prices were flat in October against expectations of a 0.1% rise, with core consumer price index also down to 0.2%. The United States House of Representatives passed a temporary spending bill that will prevent a government shutdown. The bill will extend funding through mid-January. It now awaits approval from the Senate before President Joe Biden can sign it into law. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is pleased with the bipartisan support for the bill. The funding bill will keep federal agencies funded at current levels through 2024, allowing more time for detailed spending bills to be created. The passage of the bill comes after a tumultuous period in the House. And now to all the news in the world of sport with my colleague Narayan. Narayan, over to you.
If you take over Ramesh, this match is a high voltage match is underway between India and New Zealand at the Wankhede Stadium. The kind of start India has got, we are hoping that it's a advantage India situation right now. And let's start moving on to this match. India is taking on New Zealand in the first semi-final at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. India has won the toss and elected to bat first. India started their inning on a flamboyant note as opener Rohit Sharma thrashed Kiwi bowlers all across the stadium. Rohit scored 47 runs before being removed by Team Saudi. In the process, Rohit Sharma scored 56s in the ICC World Cups, and Team India has entered the knockout stage, the perfect record in the group stage, having emerged victorious in all 9 of their league matches. On the other hand, New Zealand made it to the last 4 by winning 5 out of these 9 matches. They managed to overcome a 4-match losing streak. Indians are favourite to clinch the contest, but the Black Caps are no pushovers. They were runner-ups in 2015 and 2019. and our correspondent Abhishek joins us for more in this match. Abhishek, if we talk about this match, India has already won the toss, and the kind of start Rohit Sharma has given, we can say that looking at this pitch, all the teams batting first so far in the 3 matches, the teams who are batting first scored more than 300 runs, 2 match for South Africa and 1 match for India also against South Africa. But the match against Australia versus Afghanistan, that was the exception. Do you think it's advantaged India after winning the toss and the kind of start Rohit Sharma has given to the Indian team?
Right, absolutely, Narayan. Like you said, it's advantage India, definitely. I mean, toss was the factor in the sense that, like you said, 357, the average first inning score here in the World Cup in 2023 edition. And in contrast, 188 is the average score batting second while chasing. So you can see the difference between batting first and batting second. And looking at the Team India's bowling performance in the tournament so far, if you talk about Mohammad Siraj, Mohammad Shami, Jasprit Bumrah, they'll be lethal. I mean, it will not be easy for New Zealand to bat against Shami, Bumrah and Siraj in the first 10 overs under floodlights because of the humidity. Ball seams a lot here, ball swings a lot here. So it will not be easy for New Zealand. But yes, India have got the start that they would have wanted. And what an innings by Rohit Sharma. I mean, Narayan, the most selfless cricketer I've seen is Rohit Sharma. He doesn't care about the milestones. He wants to play the situation, wants to play what is best for the team. Why India has been doing well in the entire tournament is because of the start that India have got in the first power play, that is in the first 10 overs. And today also, 84 for 1 in the first 10 overs. Unfortunately, Kane Williamson took that blinder. But Rohit Sharma has done his job. I mean, the kind of start that India wanted. Shubman Gill was playing the sheet anchor's role, but now he'll switch gears. I think Virat Kohli will don the cap of a sheet anchor now, and then Shubman Gill will play his shot. But yes, advantage India in the first semi-final.
If we talk about Abhishek, India has already got a good start and they have won the toss. But in the evening, there is going to be swing for the bowlers. The India, when they will bowl, we have seen in the past matches, there is very difficult to play the ball in the twilight time. So it will be difficult for the New Zealand bowlers to bowl in the twilight time, because the kind of bowling our bowlers are doing is exceptional in this tournament, and it will be a difficult task for the New Zealand batsmen in the twilight.
Absolutely, Narayan. Like I said earlier, first 10 overs, first power play for New Zealand will not be easy. Looking at the history at the Wankhede, because of the swing that the fast bowlers will get, because of the humidity, there's a moisture on the pitch, and it's the evening time, the twilight time that you said, will not be easy for New Zealand. But yes, India would like to score over 300 batting first, the kind of start that they had wanted. They have got that, and 300, 320 will be a par score here. And yes, Rohit Sharma had come during the practice. He was checking whether there's a dew or not. There was a lot of dew, but still, despite that, Rohit Sharma opted to bat first, because the kind of conditions here, they're suiting the bowlers under the floodlights. The first 10-15 overs will be very crucial. But yes, the first target for India will be to score around 300-350. Will not be easy for New Zealand batting second.
So the first 10 overs will not be easy for New Zealand, because the ball will swing at the twilight. And we have seen in the past matches the way the teams who are batting second, it's very difficult for them here at the Wankhede Stadium. And thanks, Abhishek, for joining us and giving a perspective on this high-profile match in the ICC ODI World Cup. For more updates, we again go back to Ramesh. Ramesh, back to you.
Thank you, Narayan. Appreciate it. And finally, before we close, preparations for the year-end festivities have begun at London's Royal Botanical Gardens in Kew with the annual Christmas Lights Show on Tuesday. The attractions include 3-meter-high illuminated flowers, cascading lights suspended from the tree canopy, and one of the longest light tunnels to ever feature at Christmas at Kew. The event, called Christmas at Kew, runs from Wednesday until the first week of January. And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website, ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.